Hello, dear students. Here we are with PowerPoint number 3, difficult tactics. And let us see if I can get this beautiful slide uploaded for you. Apparently there's, yeah, there we go. So one of the things often questioned by students is, this negotiation theory where you have a more collaborative problem-solving attitude, looking for underlying interests, trying to work together. On the other hand, there's the more zero-sum, adversarial, fighting attitude. To what extent is this win-win collaboration realistic? What if we go out in the world and the negotiation partner on the other side did not take a negotiation course and just is behaving and acting like a jerk? What if they apply difficult tactics to us? Are we then not at risk? Will we not be exploited? Will we be the sissy that is walked over? This is a very important question, and I agree that we probably in introductory courses do not spend enough time tackling this issue. In last winter term, when I was teaching my course at Harvard Law School, on the request of some of the students, I spent a full afternoon on elaborating more the difficult tactics, doing more exercise, and also having the students ask questions on what to do when you deal with the situation that is difficult. And they gave me examples, and we discussed together. We changed ideas. It was interesting, and I think it is true that there are really jerks out there who play extreme hardball, and they sometimes win. Or they sometimes, at least on the short term, seem to win. Question is if they still will win on the long term. We can discuss that. What I want to present now is some thoughts on, and you can read it also in Beyond Winning, of course, on dealing with difficult tactics. And let us first be clear that we differentiate between different types of difficulties. There is difficulties that are inherent to the negotiation itself, structurally, because, for instance, you need to negotiate a deal and there are 25 parties, or the issues are extremely complex, emotionally loaded, historically, or there's a very, very small Zupa. All of these make the negotiation very, very difficult. And the only way to deal with these difficulties is to give the best of yourself, to be prepared, to do your research, to think it through, to try to be creative, and to look for solutions. And you can see in the real world out there, in the geopolitical context, there are conflicts that are dragging on for decades and not being solved. And still, we should never give up hope and try to find ways to get out of the conflict and the dispute. Then there's another difficulty, which is interpersonal, because there's strong emotions, very, very different views of the world, different stories, very sensitive topic. That's the interpersonal difficulty, and that is completely linked to empathy and assertiveness and the second tension. As you see, we have been discussing in the PowerPoint 2 the basic concepts, and they were linked to the first tension, distribution and creation of value. We will in PowerPoint 4 and 5 discuss more the second tension and empathy and assertiveness. Also in PowerPoint 6, we will zoom in into a very important aspect that is linked to empathy. The difficult conversations I referred already to Sheila Heen and Doug Stone's beautiful book on that topic. And then the last PowerPoint, number 7, interviewing and counseling a client will be at the heart of the third tension, the principal agency tension. So what that means here, in terms of difficult tactics and the nature of the difficulties, we focus on this one here in the middle, the tactical difficulties. The other partner is being strategic, and they try to, by using tactics, to intimidate you and to get the better deal. Let's see if we can get to the next slide. In Beyond Winning, you find a list of typically used difficult tactics, and we have taken some here. You put extreme demands and you make very small concessions. It's like when you're in a souk market in Cairo and you would be bargaining instead of negotiating. For a lot of people, negotiation is bargaining, and that's to me a different approach. Bargaining is more like a game. There's this famous clip in a Monty Python movie where he's trying to escape the Roman soldiers, and he wants to take a helmet at a little stand at the market, and the seller says, yes, you can buy this, and give me your price. And he says, I give you 20 shekel. And then say, what, are you crazy? You need to say, no, sorry. He says, I asked 20 shekel and shekels, and that's the currency. And the guy who is fleeing for the soldier says, okay, here, and he gives the 20 shekels. No, you don't have to do that. You have to say, now are you crazy? I only give you 3. And then he says, well, are you crazy? I only give you 3. And then the guy starts to shout, what? Who do you think you are? And my children. And so he's kind of making fun, in a funny way, claiming the game of bargaining with the extreme demands and small concessions. And lots of people getting into a negotiation do that. And they think that's the way they should do it. And I think they are very, very wrong, and it has an impact on their reputation. It's not wrong to do that on a marketplace when everyone knows that these are the rules of the game, but then it's a game. Take it or leave it offers, putting you against the wall, and if you don't accept this, we will litigate. My hands are tied, my client or my boss says this and this. Then personal attacks, insults, emotional pressure. I think in today's society, it's less brutal than it used to be, but it may be very subtle. And I have been insulted as a young professor and attorney negotiating with a previous dean of the bar of 65, and I was 30 or something, and then him really giving me the impression, come on, you young boy, what do you know about this? And so you can be insulted because of your age. You can be insulted also because of your gender. There is a thin line of discrimination there. Sexism, racism, probably not anymore, although subtle. It's a very delicate line, and some people cross the line. Personal attacks, we don't know anything about this. Batna bashing, come on, what are you going to do in court? We will eat you. Threats, can be all kind of threats, dirty tricks, and then bluffing and lying. There's a lot of lying, and that's, to me, a very problematic attitude in the lawyering business, since quite some lawyers feel like they are allowed to lie. And I think that is absolutely not the case. It would lead us too far to really go into that. I had 10 years ago the Frankie Chair in Belgium at the University of Brussels, and the topic of my inaugural speech there, my inaugural lecture, was are attorneys allowed to lie? And that was on ethics in negotiation. So we could discuss that during a Zoom if we have the time. For now, let's just stick to the reality that this kind of tactics are used all the time by attorneys in practice, and that these difficult tactics prove the point that the idea that if we just adopt a win-win attitude and if we are just nice to each other, it will all be fine. That doesn't really work. Roger Fisher, the big professor at Harvard Law School, predecessor of Bob Mnookin, he wrote the famous book Getting to Yes with Bill Urey, and in 1981. And Getting to Yes is a great book where it's based on the 7 elements. In this course, we use the 3 tensions of Bob Mnookin, as I explained in the introduction. But of course, that's also building further on previous work at Harvard, also of Roger Fisher, on the 7 elements. And the 7 elements are interests, options, criteria, alternatives, relationships, communication, and commitment. So you see a lot of these 7 elements come back in what we already have been discussing in the first tension. The one on relationship and communication will be more part of the second tension on empathy and assertiveness. And win-win is the concept that was kind of promoted by Getting to Yes. Also be soft on the people, be tough on the issues. Nice, good insight. Separate the people from the problem. Yet Roger Fisher, and I had lunch with him not so long before he passed away. He already had some, his lucidity was a little bit impaired already, although he had some very bright moments still. And I remember he said, Alain, if we just, as lawyers, if we just embrace this win-win, we can almost get over anything. And that's true. He's absolutely right. The problem is, it may be too much of a kumbaya, happy illusion. The problem is that if you put the wolves with the sheep, it's not like Roger Fisher would hope that they all will dance together or run together. The problem is in the real world, the sheep get eaten. And I don't think we as negotiation teachers and professors who believe in principled negotiation, interest-based negotiation, collaborative negotiation, we do not want our students, and we don't want to be ourselves, be sheep that get eaten by wolves in the hard world out there. So we need to be prepared to deal with difficult tactics and jerks. And so the question is, how do we do that? First of all, we need to question ourselves why it is that very often when they apply a difficult tactic, they insult us, that we will react. And we react often in a pretty non-constructive way. Sometimes people play their game and they start insulting back, and then it escalates. Sometimes people surrender, give in, and let them be intimidated and just at least at the meeting, and then they probably will hit back later. They give in. And sometimes they say, I just don't want to talk to this guy. This is such a jerk. And they go to the BATNA. The problem is if you do that as a lawyer, you're deciding to go to the BATNA for your client. And it may be in the interest of your client not to go to the BATNA, and to find a way to deal with that jerk. So these options do not seem to be very productive. In a way, you let the other side determine your destiny. And one thing we should learn is how to control our own destiny and to see how will we react in a better, more productive way to such negative behavior. And we can do that by empowering ourselves and be able to better communicate interpersonally. So you need both internal and external skills to do that. Internally, you need a lot of calm and peace within yourself to be able to deal with a jerk, because you will get frustrated, irritated, annoyed, intimidated, angry, and so on. And so then you need to be able to look into yourself, be self-aware, analyze, keep your calm. This is clearly a reason why to be a good negotiator or a good mediator may benefit from doing some structured systemic practice of mindfulness or meditation. There's a clear benefit because with mindfulness, with meditation, you can get yourself in a zen, in a status and modus of calm, of not letting the behavior of the other side get you angry or carried away. It gives you the possibility to easily go to the balcony, to zoom out, to look at the situation, to make a system 2 more rational analysis rather than be driven by emotions or anger, system 1. All of this is not easy, and it takes a lot of self-awareness and honesty about your own hot buttons, your own weak spots. I always say it takes a strong person to be vulnerable and to accept your own deficiencies. And then there's also the external skills building, where you are better at communicating with the other side. The external work, the communication, is that you not let the other side control you, but that you act on your own purpose and you're not reactive depending on what they say. So instead of the old options, you try to be in control, you have a clear purpose, you change the game. And we have 3 ways of changing the game. And the preferred option is to reframe. If that doesn't work, you name the game. If that doesn't work, you may change the players. They are on a continuum, and obviously the further you go on a continuum, the more drastic the solution is and the more it may have an impact on the relationship with the other side. What is important here is that you try to, what I often tell clients, keep your eyes on the ball. What do we want? We want to make a deal that satisfies your interests to the best possible way. And for that, we need to take a lot of hurdles, and there will be a lot of difficulties, but we need to be focused. We have a purpose. So then the internal work, I already elaborate a little bit on that. You need to prepare and think about what might bring me out of balance. How would I react to that? What can I do when I lose my cool? Most importantly, is to be able to zoom out and diagnose and don't react from system 1. I already said that, and all these things can be structurally practiced by mindfulness, meditation, or other techniques of self-awareness. Let's now go to the external work, where we have The most preferred option, that is very much linked to what we will discuss in the second tension on empathy with active listening, and that is the reframing. When they are insulting you, attacking you, making extreme demands, take it or leave it, whatever, you say, you can listen and you can reframe what they will be very positional because they are claiming. You can reframe that into interests. Okay, when they say, look, my hands are tied, we need 10 million here. Okay, it sounds like financial interests are really important to you. Can you say more about that? Or reframe positions to options. Okay, that's one option, that's a financial option. Do you see other options that you could explore? Or you reframe to criteria. Could you say it's key for you to get 10 million? Can you explain me better, or can you explain me a bit where the number comes from? What are the criteria? Could you give me your reasoning? That is, you could also reframe to relationship. Whoa, that's really a tough position, and I don't see how we can link that to the good relationship our clients have. How do you see that? So the idea is that you don't react, but that you reframe what they are saying from the perspective of the purpose you have, and that purpose is to find a collaborative deal that satisfies your client's interest to the best possible way, and also their interest also in a reasonable way. Let's stop it here and then continue in clip 2.